The Late Modern Society by Sebastian Rauner and Sarah. When talking about marriages in Denmark today, there has been three kinds of marriages, and we're currently living in the third one. The first category was the traditional marriage, which took place before the Industrial Revolution. The point with this marriage was to survive and have a stable economy, as it was only the men working while the women stayed at home taking care of the children and housework, as they weren't allowed to work. It was important for the women to remain a virgin because if not, the men would not want them, and the women could not survive because of the lack of jobs for them. So basically, the women were dependent on the men. This ended with a lot of women being forced to marry as their parents wanted them to survive. The second category is the romantic marriage, which is neither money or status, which is when neither money or status was as important as before. What this marriage was about was more passion and love rather than responsibility and adulthood. As this time was all about finding a true love, it resulted in a lot of divorces as people suddenly weren't satisfied with the person they thought as the one. The proper age for this marriage was about the golden age, where it was all about romanticizing love, the human body, and relationships. When the focus point of this marriage was love and passion, they weren't fit for parenting. The relationship between parent and child would take up too much time and cut off some of the communication and intimacy between husband and wife. It's hard to have a sleepless it's hard to have sleepless night with a new lover when you're having sleepless night as a new mother.
The third category is the most common marriage currently is the hip marriage, where the main focus are the children. The process of this life starts with getting a proper education that will secure a stable economy. Next step is the relationship. Before the relationship takes place, the individual partner makes sure to find a reliable partner that is suitable for the family life. Then come the maternity. The children became the most important thing in the parents and will receive everything the parents can give them. However, it's important for the parents not to forget to care for each other, so they manage a date night. The aim of this parenting is to make sure the child grows up with a healthy diet and the right amount of pressure and learning so that they will later in life get a good care. Also, the parents wish for their child to be independent with not only their employment but also their marriage. If they, for example, get a girl, they don't expect her to be dependent on the husband when beginning their own family, opposite to the traditional family, but to make a living of her own career.
The version of marriage popular before this one was focused on the parents
Wait.
and therefore the primary socialization of the children may or may not have been very good. The parents were so focused on each other that they to a certain extent forgot about their children. Thus, when the children grew up, they wanted to give their offspring a better start in life than what their parents gave them, and therefore they found a partner that can identify with their pain, and together they create a nice and safe, stable environment for their children to grow up in. This is why they would rather go to football with their son than they would sit at home and snuggle, to make their children feel what they never did. And this can also be contributed to the fact that most people like to rebel against what their parents did. Most young people, at least, like to hear what mom and dad says and then go and do exactly what they want, even if it's completely different, maybe even the opposite. It could also be that the modern society we live in has the primary focus on the individual, and therefore most parents do what is considered normal, which in this case is making your child follow their dreams and go for that special something that they really want. This is because they want to flesh out their child's personality and be a part of an unspoken contest between parents um, of whose child is doing the best. The children will of course not know about this as they just want the love and recognition of their parents, which they get when they specialize themselves and become individuals with their own worth.
What's the significance here of the socialization of children? The different marriages have different impacts on the socialization of children. The traditional marriage formula makes the children bond very closely with their mother and any other help that they can get in the house. This is not to say that they do not bond with their father, of course they do, but often in modern versions of the traditional marriage, the father is not home very often, and the children only see him in the morning and after and at dinner and in the weekends. This can in some cases create a tense relationship between the child and the father, as they are expected of society to know each other very well, when in reality they don't socialize very often. The traditional marriage will also impact the child's decisions in such a way that they in many cases will choose a similar if not the same formula for their future marriage.
The romantic marriage, in my opinion, has quite a negative impact on the child. The romantic marriage is based on the love between the husband and the wife. Therefore, a lot of these marriages are ruined early on, and there are a lot of divorces involved. The primary problem with this is that the child will have trouble knowing who its primary socialization group is. In most cases, when a couple splits early in the life of a child, the custody will go to the mother, and the father will be alienated by the mother, as the divorces that these marriages create are often because of cheating or other things that are shunned by society. The fact that the child can only turn to their mother for primary socialization is often a bad thing, as they will only get the feminine part of society, and as a boy that can lead to a lot of bullying if the wrong actions are made. It can also lead to psychological problems later on in life if the divorce is hard on them. The last point mostly applies to children who have grown up a bit but not enough to clearly understand what is happening to them. For an example, a 4-year-old. This is because they understand enough to know that they love both their parents but doesn't want them to go each their way, and will most likely be forced to live a week at either parent's house, as both of them are also attached to the child. This is, of course, only if the parents actually divorce, but even if they don't, they will primarily focus on one another and their relationship, so they might not socialize enough with their child, which can give them some social problems, which will make them break norms that they would otherwise have learned at home. The hip marriage
Okay, guys.
is The hip marriage is probably the safest one to grow up in. Here, your parents are practically waiting for you to be born, and from day one, they work on making you an individual person. The fact that the marriage is maintained for the sole sake of raising children will in most cases stop people from divorcing in the face of hardship, as, as a lot of their work will be lost. With their work, I'm of course referring to their children growing up in a safe environment. That the parents are there encouraging the children to pursue hobbies and also doing what they can to make sure that they find one ensures that they will not only have an active primary socialization in form of parents who are who are more than willing to interact with them, but also a strong local network of friends and a strong secondary socialization from the before mentioned hobbies. This makes sure that the child will learn most, if not all, of their local norms, and will not have any problem adapting to new ones, as they know very well how to handle talking to people.